I'm Jordan Belfort, and this is Sales School. A script is divided into 4 parts. Very simple, okay? Part 1 is the introduction. The introduction. And this is that point on an outgoing call, okay, where if you're calling out, you'd say, hey, John, this is so-and-so calling from XYZ company. How you doing today? Great, John. Well, the reason for the call is whatever it is. It's just your basic introduction. Don't worry about the particulars yet. Just your intro is the first words that come out of your mouth. And remember, is not a lot you can say in those first 4 or 5 seconds that can establish you as an expert. So it's very basic. It's a normal greeting. How you doing today? Make sound enthusiastic. It's more about your tonality and that you care. You got to sound good. But again, that's their introduction, name of your company, and so forth. The second step is your body of your presentation. Okay? Now remember, when I talk about scripting here, and let me go back. I'm going to confuse you a bit because let's just forget the intro in terms of when you first pick up the phone, okay? Because there's 2 types of this, and I want to just go through the second one first. This is the intro, meaning when after your transition is over, okay? Let me just reiterate this. So you've already asked your qualifying questions, and you've gotten all the intelligence you need. Your product can help them. And you've said, well, John, based on what you've said to me, this is a perfect fit for you. Let me tell you why. And we start from there. This is part of the script I want to cover here. You have the same thing with the intro when you're first picking up the phone as a script, but that's a separate script to cover, okay? So you say the intro in this case would be about what your product is, okay? You talk about what your product is in general terms. Name of the product, name of the company is, name of the policy is, whatever it might be, okay? And then from there, you lead into the body of your script where you discuss the features and the benefits. And and I don't want to get into, it's so simplistic to say, everyone's heard, don't focus on features, focus on benefits, right? Well, the bottom line is this. Whenever you talk about a benefit, you typically have mentioned a feature. There's always a feature with a benefit attached to it. That's the truth most of the time. But in the highest level of selling, the most powerful case you can make is not feature-benefit case. It's through other ways of storytelling and metaphors and comparisons. So I just want to be aware but the body of your script, you're going to have a certain amount of it dedicated to features and benefits where you're making your logical case. And as part of that body of your script, you're going to also focus on making the beginnings of an emotional case. So the first part's logical, and you also want to tail off with emotion. Step 3, you then will have what's called the close. So every script ends with you asking for the order in no uncertain terms. At a certain point in time, you have to say, John or Jill, this is what you should be doing. This is what most of my customers are doing right now. This is what I recommend. And you say, do this. You actually ask for the order. Okay? And then after you ask for the order, and they either say yes or no, or let me think about it, right? For the people who want to think about it, and you engage in what's called looping patterns. And looping patterns are the mechanism that we use to take an objection and turn it into a close. How we take an objection and we loop back and turn it into a close, okay? And I'm going to explain this in intimate detail tomorrow, this process, okay? So let me start off now. Let's talk about what are the elements of a great script. What makes a great script great, and what are some of the things that just kill scripts? Because there's certain killers that just simply stop you from closing, okay? Number 1, the body of a script should be no more than a page. or a page and a half. You don't want to front load a script. The biggest mistake I see that rookie salesmen make is they feel if they don't get it all out in one breath, the person's going to say no and leave. And they end up talking and talking, and then they bring up every single great benefit. They do everything up front. They shoot their load, so to speak. Right? And then when the person says, let me think about it, they're like, hum. They're out. They're out of ammo. They don't leave any of their powder dry. Remember, the process of creating certainty in another human being is not a 0 to 100 miles. It doesn't go boom, boom. Like someone doesn't go from being a 3 to a 10 in 5 minutes. It's not how human beings are moved emotionally or even logically. It's incrementally. So you might get someone from a 3 to a 7. Then they slide back to a 5. Then you give them another language pattern that brings them to an 8, and they go back to a 6.5. Then to the third one, they get up to a 9 or 10. So in other words, it's a series of moves that create absolute certainty. It's not one. The biggest mistake that salespeople make is if they do prepare, those that do engage in preparation, they don't go deep enough. They prepare for their opening canned presentation, and that's all they got. And it's usually way too long and front-loaded with all sorts of features and benefits, maybe some metaphors and storytelling as well, but it's so long, when they finally are done and ask for the order, and the person says, let me think about it, like, oh, fuck. I have nothing left to say. They gave all their great stuff. Much more powerful is if you frame your case, you give some really great points, and you build your case, but leave some great stuff out. So when someone says, they want to think about it, when you actually engage in what's called looping, we go back and start reselling, you have even more powerful patterns to pull out of the bag, to change someone's mind. Like, they say, oh, I didn't hear that before. No, you want to have some powerful stuff that they don't know about to bring them up to the next level of certainty. Remember, when you ask for the order and they say, let me think about it, you're creating some what? Reverse consistency. Once someone says, I want to think about it, they get anchored into, I want to think about it. Now you have to overcome that consistency. Okay? But that's part of selling it. It's going to happen. We do that through deflection and by answering objections in a certain way. But the point is that you can't front load. You can't just like, if I say everything and I give him all my best stuff, then he'll say yes without ever saying no first, or let me think. That's not the way it works. There's typically a certain amount of let me think about it, so let me call you back, that you have to go through till the guy says yes. So don't front load. Leave some powder dry. Next step to a script. Every word in your script is crucial. I'm a stickler. When I actually work on scripts for a company, when I go through it in a painstaking process. When you read a script and you're reading it to yourself, and when I say reading this, if you're selling over the phone, very often you can have it in front of you as just a guide, and you know it by heart already. But as you're reading it, every word has to flow. If there's any tongue twisters in there, it's not flowing naturally, it's not a workable script. It takes a while to write, to develop a really good script. It's not a 30-minute exercise. It takes a bit of time. So you got to dedicate that. And when you're going through your script, as you're reading, every word matters. Every word's got to be balanced. It's got to flow. It's got to sound good. If it doesn't sound good, it doesn't flow well, the script's not going to play out. Well, when I'm going through my own script, I read it out loud to myself 1,000 times. I keep reading it out loud. Is there any tongue twisters? Is it hard for me to say? How can I make it flow better? Every word in the script matters.